What's on the agenda for today? So, we are going to talk about what conscious leadership is. What is consciousness? Just to level set a definition, certainly we've heard many. And then we're going to talk about Cofinity's 3 levels of consciousness, which is basically where we start with leaders and teams to develop greater levels of awareness. And then we're going to go into an exercise, as I mentioned, and then talk about specific tools within those 3 levels that you can apply and take with you today. And then we'll talk about the applications at work. Like how is consciousness actually applied in real life work settings? Sometimes leaders have a feeling that they need to slow down or stop progress on normal business work in order to integrate deeper levels of awareness. And that's simply not true. So we're going to talk about what are the applications that we can bring more greater awareness into work situations. And then finally, there's an invitation at the end along with resources. So today, at some point, we want you to plug in your email so that we can send you the PDF of the deck that we're about to switch to, send you some resources as well that you can bring back to your life and to your teams. Sound good? This is going to be an open dialogue and an experiential, and we're going to drop into some practices that will hopefully immerse you into some of the experiential part of conscious leadership so that you're able to develop your own personal experience with what it means to be conscious as a leader. And that is not something that is prescriptive or formulaic or modeled. It really is a personal relationship to how you're personally relating to the concepts, the practices, and the opportunity of how to be more embodied and how you show up as a human in a leadership role. We're going to practice today with that. Robert, you're saying that you're drawn to all things consciousness and believe that leaders with high degrees of consciousness are needed now more than ever. And I'm hoping to lead with new and expanded perspectives. Thank you, number one, for being here, because that tells me that, more and more people that are turning on, that we're all holding a grid of light together, a grid of change and transformation, positivity and hope. And so I definitely hope that you get some infusion today, and that's certainly my intention. I want to start with, why conscious leadership? And certainly, Robert, you brought up a really good point. Conscious leadership is obviously what we're all seeing and experiencing, especially in the last 5 years, is that we're in a state of a dramatic quantum shift in not only our species, but we're all going into this period of awakening. There is a certain way that we've been living that is no longer sustainable, that we're seeing show up symptomatically in our species, whether it shows up in mental health, technology overload, stress, extreme high levels of stress. And we're seeing all of these symptoms in lack of engagement. We're seeing all of these symptoms show up in human beings, but we're also seeing planetary symptoms in terms of the way we've been doing business and the way we've been living, which is really an extractive model and not really a regenerative model. So with that, we are noticing leaders in general are having a challenge balancing and equipping themselves internally and also being able to show up for the complexity and the challenges in the workplace. With that, there is an opportunity to expand our capacity and our ability to meet the times in where they are, both as individual humans in our lives, but also as we have responsibility for showing up for other people. And it requires a new level of resourcefulness. So where do we go in our capacity as humans, right? If we have exhausted the typical approaches, where do we go? And my solution and my recommendation is that we go to higher levels of consciousness and our innate intelligence for the wisdom to apply to these situations that we're seeing. The other thing that is happening in dynamic change is the need for conscious leadership and the dynamics of the time. And one of the things that I love that this shows is this two-loop theory systems change. And what this shows is a dying of the dominant system that we have known and to an emergent system that's happening. But where we are right now is in this transition phase, right? Because we have a dominant system that we have been operating in that's dying and an emerging system that's still being birthed. And so in this transition, there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty because we can't rely upon the past in terms of doing things that are fitting for the future. This transition phase creates a lot of uncertainty in people, and there is a propensity to go to fear, right? Propensity to go to scarcity and contraction. But what we really need is expansion, and to be able to use other tools in our arsenal and in our toolkit to really expand into what is potentially possible in this new emerging system, which is really the opportunity to use our awareness, our consciousness, and our innate intelligence and wisdom for what wants to come forward in this opportunity time. Right. But I love this graphic because it really helps us understand what's really going on, and also kind of give us a good rationale for why we're feeling a little bit uncomfortable, because we are in the creation mode. I believe that if you are alive in this time, that you're also, and you're obviously, coming here and talking about conscious leadership, that you are part of the solution of creating this next emerging system. So one of the things that we have been working on at Cofinity is, what is the solution for this time, which is a combination, we believe, of the intelligence of strategy and the wisdom of consciousness, and using business frameworks and organizational principles in combination with consciousness and a higher level of awareness. And this is really about like what our positioning is about and what we're aiming to do. We're definitely working with organizations and leaders on strategy and developing scalable and go-to-market opportunities, but we're also bringing more human-centered systems and equipping the leaders with more levels of consciousness and awareness so that they're able to meet the times with this combination of both. A little bit about me in this dynamic. I come from a corporate agency as well as an entrepreneurial background. I've had the training and understanding about how multifunctional organizational systems work, but I also am an ordained minister, meditation teacher, spirit coach, executive leadership coach. So I'm bringing both the pragmatic and the energetic in terms of my personal application to work. Definitely, this is an important time and wanting to dedicate toward leaders, because you all, the more empowerment we can do with the leaders that are making decisions, the more opportunity we have to influence and impact communities of employees, cultures, and obviously our world. So this is the positioning and the purpose of Cofinity and my work. So let's talk about, what is consciousness? So we're describing it as a quality or state of being aware. And one of my colleagues said, is becoming aware of what you thought didn't exist before. Any other ideas of this? And again, there's no wrong or right answer. This is all your personal relationship to it.
I think consciousness also has something to do with what we attend to, what we're able to notice, and therefore what we're able to add energy to, and to energize and innervate.
I love that. So expanding on what we can see and focus expands our ability to influence.
I think for me, I kind of think of it like as your life in a Netflix series. You go through different seasons. So I think in part of your life, wherever you are, as you grow and expand, you're just noting and you're becoming aware. It really kind of ties into the self-awareness and life lessons as you navigate through life and experience, difficulties and challenges and adversity. You just kind of learn for those moments, and then you kind of go inward. Maybe people here on this call through the pandemic just kind of, since we couldn't go outside, we kind of turned inside, and just kind of the reflection and the resilience, and then you're just becoming aware, and the attunement that just kind of raises the muscle and flexibility of consciousness. And then you kind of take your personal life and then pair it up against what you've done in your career, or in business partnerships, and you realize, oh my God, the corporate world could use more of this, and kind of getting back to humanity and kindness and love. That's what comes to mind.
Yeah, thank you so much for adding that. One of my friends, Sarah Marshank, wrote a book called Selfistry, and she talks about human beings essentially have the same internal nature. We have identity, which how we see ourselves in our roles, and that could be gender, cultural background, and the roles we play in an organization. And then we also have our connection to nature and source. like being alive on planet Earth and being a part of the universe. And then lastly is our awareness or our witness to all of that, how we're witnessing ourselves. And so with that, every human being comes equipped with it. How well we dive into expanding that skill set is what we're talking about expanding in people. So this is super, super important. We all have the skill set, we have different relationships and maybe further along with the process of practice, but we all have this skill internally, which is exciting. So we believe that consciousness is our distinction from AI. And that when we look at our technological creations as advanced creatures that are creating something that's really, really powerful, we have an opportunity to look at our own inherent nature of skill set as human beings. And are we going to be the creators of our creation? Or is our creations going to be creators of us? And obviously, we're seeing a lot of conversations around how we utilize AI and how it applies to our lives and to our work. And certainly bringing in our own innate intelligence and awareness for what we believe is the right judgment call here. Consciousness is also supported in science and quantum and physics and mechanics in terms of everything is energy and able to map the vibrations of things. So the more that we are vibrating at a certain level of frequency, the more that we're able to attract the things that we're really wanting to create. So when we actually try to create resonance on teams to attract the things that they want to attract, but they have to be in harmonious alignment and resonance in order to fully and optimally bring that creation or that outcome about it with ease and swiftness. The part of the thing about what consciousness is starts to come into teamwork, we don't realize the power that we can have collectively. Part of what Cofinity does is to help build that resonance within a team structure. And we also teach people how to do that as well. Neuroscience with the study of the MRI or the advent of the MRI is starting to bring about conditions or pictures of the brain states that are optimal for innovation and creativity. All of these things in science that we have been studying are pointing to the advancement and the importance of us advancing our own consciousness and our own conscious ability. So how Cofinity teaches this and brings this about is on 3 levels of conscious leadership. One is your ability to sense self, which we've been talking about. The second level is your ability to sense other people, right? And then your ability to sense the system, which Robert, you were speaking to earlier about conscious leadership and the importance of the more that you're aware, the more that you can influence. And so the first opportunity is to be resourced in yourself. Are you clear? Are you equipped? Are you resilient? Do you have capacity, right? And how you're processing your own personal life and how you're thinking about your own personal self has a great deal of impact with how you're showing up as a leader. So there are processes and a couple of things today that I want to show you about how to be more equipped to show up as a strong leader. The second thing is the ability to sense others. Your ability to be neutral in yourself gives you a little bit more of an antenna on the ability to sense where other people are. They don't always tell you, but we're energy beings and we're constantly transmitting information. I'm doing a training with the Heart Math Institute next month on building heart resonance in teams. And the Heart Math Institute, if you're not familiar with them, has been studying the human magnetic field of the heart for the last 30 years. And they have identified that the human heart transmission can be felt 10 feet out from the human body. So if we're attuned to this, we get nonverbal information, right? We get nonverbal information about how we can show up for others, when someone needs compassion, when someone needs motivation and empowerment, when someone just needs us to stop talking and for us to listen. And so there's a great listening tool that I learned at the Presencing Institute with Otto Scharmer's work. If you're not familiar with them, Emerging Futures, fascinating stuff. But I've taken this one tool out of that training and brought it into leaders, and it is really powerful. It's just a listening understanding that helps you your ability to sense others. And then finally, your ability to sense the system. How many of us have heard of parking karma? Okay, so what happens when we tune in to parking karma? When we're aware, when we go in to a parking lot and go, okay, we got our parking karma, all of a sudden the antenna goes up. We start to sense where there is an opening. This is exactly what can happen in a organization. And my favorite thing is to teach this to CEOs, because you can understand really quickly where they're what functional area of the organization needs support, who needs resources. And Robert, you brought this up earlier. The more aware you are, the more your antenna's up, the more you're able to notice where there's opportunities and where there is time and attention that is required in order to keep the entire system moving along smoothly. But when you are in a parking garage next time, I want you to sense and notice, show me where the parking spot is, and practice that. So one of the first things around the levels of awareness is the awareness of self we call 3 C's. The 3 C's basically are centered, clear, and connected. And we categorize this as being connected to source, or the sun, because the sun and the earth are enormous givers of energy, right? They're supporting plant life. They push nutrients up through the soil to grow 300-foot redwood trees and more, and provide a vital life force energy to all living things on the planet. We sometimes as humans forget we can utilize this energy for ourselves. The first thing is being able to be connected to source light. And oftentimes I use the metaphor or the symbol of the sun, and connecting to the sun and connecting to the earth as a vertical alignment that's possible. And when we're in that vertical posture, we have more clarity. We're able to discern what's mine and what's other people's. And we're also able to pull down energy into our physical bodies, just like photosynthesis does with plants, if we're tapped into it. If we're disconnected from it, we're not able to access that energy and that light. Same goes with the earth in terms of being grounded, because this grounding, you've heard the benefits of being grounded as an embodied practice to give you sense of more of an anchored space as we move through the world, and as the stimulation and the complexity of stimulation that's coming at us can be managed better, frankly. And once that vertical alignment is created, we're able to expand our horizontal connection, which is really our clear field. And in this field that we have, and you can see it illustrated by this field that is around this human structure, that this is the domain of our control. This is what we have control over. And so what is in this field ourselves is what we can become aware of so that we're more resourced. And we're going to do a visualization to this so you can feel this connection to the earth and grounding, and how they can actually be opposing gravitational pulls to be able to stretch you vertically so that you're feeling supported above and you're supported below. And when we walk in that alignment, there is more opportunity for us to be fueled and resourced by energy, but also it strengthens our ability to see higher levels of truth about what's going on, not only in our bubble, our field of influence, but also how we're able to perceive different things that are happening outside. And this is the key to understanding where we begin and end, and where others begin and end, because sometimes that whole thing can get really fuzzy, particularly when we're in relationships or when we're working together with colleagues really closely. It's like knowing what is yours and what is others is really, really powerful in every moment, so that we can hold compassion knowing that it's not us versus being in reaction. The next self-awareness tool that I like to talk about within the awareness of self module under the levels of conscious leadership is the four brains, right? And you can see the colors coming back here. We all know about the analytical mind, right? We're really strong analyzers of data. We process gazillions amounts of stimulation every day and put it in compartmentalization. It's also where we store history, right? And where we're thinking about the past and where we're thinking about the future. But what I like to remind people of is that we have other intelligent sources in our physical body. One is our gut brain, which is the power of our intuition, but also the gut has the same amount of neurons as a goat brain does. So we have a lot of power in our guts and in our somatic bodies to be able to guide us, to help us understand how to make decisions and what is right and what feels wrong and what feels like a growth edge and what feels like an important thing to step into in terms of our own alignment. And then also our heart brains, which I talked a little bit before about Heart Math Institute and how our hearts are one of the strongest electromagnetic systems on the planet. And if we can use our heart, which we all know, we feel this expansion in our chest when things feel open, when we feel joy, when we feel love and happiness. But then when we feel grief or fear or other things, our hearts contract, right? And then finally at the very top is our conscious brain, which is our innate intelligence, which is the space of our ability to witness self. It is the ability to observe and be able to understand how we're overseeing all of these other brains. But the power I want to point out here in this illustration is, what if all of these things were in alignment for you? And what if you were using more than just one brain? And not to say that you are, because I'm sure if you're here, you're aware of this. But when you're thinking about like a current situation that you may be dealing with personally or professionally, how might an alignment of both anchoring to earth and source energy, as we just described in the earlier, being in that aligned posture, but also being in alignment of listening to these other parts of your ability to be able to guide your next step. So how do we feel about dropping into just a quick visualization so that you can feel this alignment, but also maybe the coming on of these other four brains around a certain situation? And I'm going to cue you about bringing something up, and maybe we can call in some additional wisdom that may be coming from these other parts. Are we game for that? Find yourself in a comfortable place. You don't have to close your eyes, but if you feel more comfortable, close your eyes. And I want you to feel like your connection, your personal connection with the earth. Feel that grounding. Feel the power of the earth holding what it's holding right now. And certainly it can hold us. Just feel your feet, your pelvis, your skeletal structure in grounding into the earth, your nervous system. And however you experience like your own grounding cord, sometimes it's a roots of a tree or a cable, or I like to think of a beautiful gold cord around my waist that's actually holding me to the center of the earth. And going through all layers of the earth really deeply to really feel that anchoring. I love to feel the gravitational pull of the earth pulling out stress from our body, just as a recycling, like taking what's not ours, taking what's really we've been holding that is causing us stress in our physical bodies and in our mental bodies. Just see that gravitational pull pulling out what's not you. So you're able to ground even more. And then I want you to sit and notice your vertical nature connected to the sun. And all of us know what it feels like to have the sun on our face. And I want you to just take that in. Take in vitamin D, energy of the sun. And obviously, this is through your imagination. And what if we were just to allow, however we relate to source energy or the sun or the stars or the universal life force supporting us from above, and seeing that energy coming into our own field, creating our own vertical integrity and posture. Mara, you can drop your email in chat and we'll send you all a bunch of information. Thank you for joining. And so I want you to see this vertical nature kind of creating vertical integrity above and below. That's obviously like maybe pulling you into a vertical structure that is more in your alignment and integrity. How can you be in alignment with self in this beautiful field of support? And as you feel that strength of vertical nature, I want you to notice your horizontal nature. How big can you make your space? How big can you create a field of influence that's full of your true nature, your intention, what you want to see in your life and in your world, or for your team at work, for your relationships? Put that intention in that horizontal field. And then I want you to think about something right now that you're dealing with, both at personal, and just have it come up gently in your field, and just notice like what needs to happen. What is this calling or requiring of you? Is there any action that's needed? Or are you just holding compassion and energy around it? How might you use other parts of your knowing to respond? What does your heart say? What does your gut say? And what does your innate intelligence say? Is there any action that's really required? And if so, what? And what is this intended to help you learn? What is it showing you that you need to absorb? Oftentimes, we think action is required before we're actually absorbing the wisdom of the situation. To be able to sense the situation and ask, what is it here to show me? And once you feel like you've gathered that intelligence, I want you to take a little screenshot of your own alignment here, your grounding and your connection to the sun and source, and feel that integrity in your body. And you can always come back here and access this space. And certainly, if you need additional experience with the 3 C's, there's a guided visualization that's a little bit longer on our website, which you will send you. So as you feel ready, you can come back and Did anybody get anything interesting from that in terms of information? Robert, you were mentioning how critical it is to maintain center. Why do you think so?
It's all my work, I realize that it's easy for me to get knocked off. Just as I, go to these, just energetically go places, I'm less disciplined in going there as I'd like. So this is an excellent reminder to start from there.
Beautiful. If I could offer you one word and then maybe you pivot. Instead of going, you pivot from this alignment.
Yeah,
You pivot,
love that.
you're in the swivel chair. You're in the swivel chair.
Love it. Yeah.
Sometimes it's back here and sometimes, but you're not, you may not have to like completely leave this space. Just try it.
I'm gonna use
Okay.
that metaphor. Thank you.
All right, awesome. So we have a couple more minutes and I want to share ability to sense others and ability to sense the system. But thank you for experimenting with that. And again, there's more resources on the website we'll share with you. So let's see this. So we've got the ability to sense others. Here is a tool from, as I mentioned, MIT Presencing Institute on the levels of listening. All of you know like how we're listening, but and active listening has become one of the tools that really are so powerful that make a great leader, right? So level 1 listening is listening for what we already know, right? We know, some of us drop into that. Level 2 is listening for only new information. Basically, when you're in a dialogue, just tell me something that is new, right? And level 3 is listening for the nonverbal cues that exist behind what people are saying, right? Noticing the energy of what someone is saying. This is a really powerful thing. And when you ask questions, like, hey, I noticed that you are talking to me about this deadline of this project, but I'm noticing how much you care. When we recognize some of the nonverbal cues we're getting, it indicates and cues to other people that we're really listening at a deeper level and that our care and compassion goes to a deeper level. You can build greater trust, connection, and collaboration. And then lastly is more of a regenerative listening and what wants to emerge from this dialogue. And this is a really powerful thing. And I know many of you have been in these conversations, is when you're having this back and forth ping pong type of conversation and you're like, what's possible from here with what we're both talking about? This is a generative, more of a future oriented solution where you're springboarding out of a conversation into new creation. And this is a really powerful thing when you're listening to what someone is saying and asking the question for, wow, you're really getting me to think about what else that I haven't been thinking about that could be possible. What about this? And then you're doing to another level of ping pong. So this is a really helpful tool. And what I'd like to do with groups like this is to do breakouts, which we don't have time to do, and tell a story and be able to be mindful about what level of we're listening at and to have the practice of this. But this is a really powerful tool. Obviously, listening in level 3 and 4 are the goal, but we always sometimes in the pace of what we're going is just like, just self-validate and tell me what I need to know. That's new information, right? But when we do that, if we find ourselves just like, say, for instance, you're at the UPS store and you just want new information, you just want information, what you know, when you go into and just noticing where someone is that's non-verbally, hey, I hope you have a great day. Or, how's it going today? There's a different level of exchange that could happen. So just invite you to practice these levels of listening and to be aware of what level of listening you're actually at. And lastly, and again, there's a lot of other tools that go into ability to sense others, but this is a really powerful one, the levels of listening. And then finally, your ability to sense the system. Robert, you brought out a really good one, but here are 3 questions to ask the access intelligence in the system. And this can be with yourself, or it can be with your team. And this, you'll notice if you're listening at level 3 or 4, you'll notice what's going on in the system that's not necessarily being named. What results are important, what has to happen for this to occur, and what's blocking us. Because often when I'm working with teams, it's not about me helping them with what I know. It's more of like me helping them with what they know. I'll just go in and do a whole workshop around these 3 questions. And it's all right there. And I'm just asking them questions in addition to what surfaces here. So how can consciousness be applied at work? Number 1, how we show up, right? How we operate from our purpose and values. Are we pivoting from that? Are we in alignment with our purpose and values, and we're pivoting from that anchor point? Leadership right now, full stop, is about consciousness and your ability to sense not only yourself and be resourced, but your ability to sense others in terms of building teams, but also the system and in the context of how you're operating. Create from possibility and hope. We're seeing that on the political landscape, shown in dramatically different environments, regardless of your political affiliation. If you just look at energy, creating from possibility and hope feels a lot better than creating from fear and scarcity. But we often create from fear and scarcity. So when we work with leadership teams on retreats, we create the conditions for possibility and hope first, so that people are in the right state of mind to create from here. Imagine strategy from here. Imagine goals and outcomes from here. And then take the time and space to imagine the potential and possibility, which is pull your team out for 2 days to plan the next 365. Company values are alive and present in mindsets and behaviors. This is super important because the values are not like just on a shelf, that they're a lived experience. And investing in human connection and relationships. Obviously, we come to work, and this is super important about how we are investing in the connections that we are involved in every day. And then the intentional applications of technology, how we're utilizing technology to enhance our life and work, and having it be an intentional thing and not something that's being done to us, or that we're not in the driver's seat of technology. And then to be mindful of employee and culture well-being. How are people really doing? And what is my responsibility, and how can I help as a leader to create the right conditions for people to thrive? And so the invitation is that we're doing a 6-month leadership coaching program where we're going to get more into these tools. And this starts in October, and then we have another cohort starting in January. But this is an invitation for you to develop more of the skills, and obviously we'll have more experience and time with this. It meets twice a month on Zoom for 90 minutes each session. Then there's going to be homework in between, and also community and collaborative partnerships with other people that you can meet outside. The hope is we invite multiple different leaders from different industries, and that we're learning from each other in here, and that you're getting real life coaching and skills and support. To find out more about Cofinity, there's a QR code for our website, and scheduling a call with me anytime, you're welcome. And I'll leave you finally with this. And this is, Robert, what you were bringing up earlier about the value that we emphasize in our society and culture has been about not our intuitive minds as a sacred gift, but it's been more of the logical mind, right? And we built a society that honors the servant, but we have forgotten the gift. And so with that, I want to say thank you so much for coming and being here, supporting this time for yourself, and giving this time for yourself to be in connection and to look at how you can advance your own leadership skills and how you show up for yourself and others. So thank you again for being here.